You are listening to the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast, episode 66. On this episode of the show, we're talking A-frame blinds, and why do they seem to become so popular as of late? All right, welcome to the 66th episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast. We are your on-demand audio source for all things waterfowl and waterfowl hunting. I'm your host, Josh Palm, joined today, as always, by my co-host, Dan Harushka. Dan, what's up, man?
No, not much. Season is in full swing here, and got a little hunting in today, so things are pretty good.
Awesome.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. No season yet. Still a couple week or two out before we get started here in Virginia, but still kind of mentally, I'm in the game. I'm seeing pictures from across the country of people shooting mallards in snow-covered fields and incredibly jealous. But before we get too far down the road with some of that stuff in this week's topics, I just want to circle back and remind everybody, if you're new to the show, welcome. If you've been around for a while, you know all of this, but make sure you guys check us out: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. If you're on Facebook, you can join the HP Outdoors Waterfowls Podcast Listeners Group. Come in there and chat with Dan and myself and a bunch of other listeners of the show. One other thing I wanted to mention that we do have, that I think we forgot maybe last episode or the episode before that even, is for all of you guys out there that use or are familiar with OnX Maps, you can use a discount code that we've been able to get with them. The discount code is HP Outdoors. You go to OnX and you can download or you can purchase a membership and get 20% off using the discount code. The important thing about that I wanted to point out to everybody, Dan, is that you have to do that through the computer. You can't get that discount via the phone. So what I would recommend to anybody, if you're not familiar with OnX, go on your phone, download the app, and you can get a 7-day free trial. Try it out, see what you think. You can use, see all the great features that it has, everything. And then if you like it and you want to purchase, get on your computer, use the HP Outdoors discount when you check out, save yourself 20%. One of the new features that have come out with the app recently, Dan, is the ability to share waypoints. So we can text each other waypoints, blind location, things like that. Super, super helpful. When you're hunting in a party, you need help dragging a deer, you want to get to a blind that you've never hunted, and your buddy's going to let you go out to his blind, whatever the case might be. Really, really great feature coming from the guys at OnX. Yeah,
and that is all lowercase as well.
Yep, lowercase, one word, right? I think is how that always, it is case sensitive. So I know we've mentioned that on in the Facebook group a few times. We've mentioned it on our Facebook page, I think, a few times, but I'm not sure how much we've talked about it here on the show. So wanted to make sure we put that out for everybody because it's a really good opportunity to save a few bucks on a cool app. And, we've talked about using technology and stuff in the past. And, I think that some people make the mistake of assuming that these sort of apps and applications and things are only useful for big game hunters. And some even think maybe they're only useful for the guys out west. Can tell you for sure they are so valuable. I can't even get into how many different ways I use it, but I use it all the time. So, honestly, guys, check it out. They give you 7 free days. Try it out. Take it with you in the field this weekend when you're hunting. See, get the aerial of your spot, property locations, all that or the boundaries, all that kind of good stuff. Anyway, I'm not going to beat this to death anymore, but check it out. If you're into it, make sure you use the discount code. For you guys that are already members, so you've already got a membership with OnX, you can still take advantage of the code when it comes time, when your year or your license expires. You just have to cancel your current subscription instead of renewing it automatically, and then reestablish a new account using the code, and you save yourself 20% right there. So definitely take advantage. So, Dan, one of the things that we decided to do is talk about when we started talking about for this episode. We thought about maybe revisiting some of the previous topics that we've talked about and go into a little more detail and things like that. But in the course of that, you made a comment about blinds, and particularly A-frame blinds. And I thought to myself, what is the deal with A-frame blinds? I mean, it seems like all of a sudden they're just all the rage. It's like every time you turn around, another company's coming out with an A-frame blind. I mean, commercially, they've never been more available than they are today. I still believe that although maybe not as available commercially in the past, they were still a very popular and very viable way to hunt that people used. But it kind of got us thinking, why now? Why is it so popular commercially? And sort of talk about, the features and functions of an A-frame blind. Why do we like them? What don't we like about them? What are good applications to use them? Things like that. So it's one of those things where it's kind of almost seems like a simple topic, but one that once you think about it, obviously, spoiler alert, they're more comfortable than layout blinds for the most part. So you may, hopefully after this episode, you may think about, this spot that I hunt, I probably could use an A-frame style blind there and be more comfortable and have a better experience in the field. So hopefully that's the kind of thought-provoking discussion that we're able to get into today.
Yeah, I think what really kicked it off when we had Sean Stahl on here, and I'm not even sure how long ago that was, but some of the things he talked about, and then, I was just stalking him online a little.
Whoops. Sorry.
And there's ducks landing on us.
I was cleaning the screen of my iPad here because it just was disgusting, and apparently I mashed the mallard button.
That's all good. But no, so I'm watching him, and I think that's when the tangle-free panel blinds came out, and I'm like, man, that looks good, but everything I've ever known is to keep a low profile, and it's been just like in the back of my mind is, that's going to flare birds. It's going to flare birds, and these guys just crush them all the time. And one cool thing I think is the more commercialized it is getting due to photography and, a little bit of my creative side, it's much more appealing, just the pictures that you can take when you're sitting next to a guy or standing next to a guy than, taking a picture of his shoulders and head while in a layout blind. That's a little more difficult. So I think, the pictures are more appealing. Like you said, it's definitely more comfortable, but, I think, if we can compare and contrast a little bit and, let people make up their own mind.
So maybe we start talking a little bit before we get into the pros and cons and sort of that angle. Let's talk a little bit about what are the conditions that may lend itself to using an A-frame, and what are the conditions that wouldn't lend itself to be an A-frame? And I'll start. Obviously the traditional one that you see is guys using them in sort of like a fence row type scenario where you can put your back to something more solid, like a brushy fence line or a river bank, something to that effect where, you've got cover behind you and you want to, tuck into that because maybe you're in a really skinny cut field and you can't, and the farmer's not going to let you dig into the field or whatever. So there's really no way to conceal the layout blind effectively. So you try to blend in with whatever's there, and those fence rows kind of create that opportunity. So that's probably the most common time I've seen them used historically. But I think there's a lot other opportunities out there to use them as well, I think.
Yeah, I think, man, I'm just, and again, you see them on Facebook all the time. You see them everywhere now whenever you're watching any kind of videos or photography, and you think like, why in my mind have layout blinds been the only option? And that's, low profile, keep your shadows down, just get right on the X. And then, I watch, who was it? Fred Zink. He's an A-frame, a sunny day, and he comes out and he's like, why are we're flaring birds. I know it's the blind. So what's going on? And he gives a little demonstration with his hand. He says, well, here's the sun's coming this way. So we're going to move the blinds at this angle and minimize our shadow. And they do that. And then from there on out, they limit out in no time at all. So they just seem like they can work in about every situation. Cause, you're talking about fence rows and stuff. My first thought is, cloudy days. You're not going to have as many shadows. You're not going to have that sun coming up and have a huge block of shadow behind your A-frame blind. And I think that you can move it around to where that's not the case.
Yeah. I mean, I think so much of it is like we've talked about in the past, just having confidence in what you're doing. I think silhouettes is probably a really strong comparison here where, we all know that silhouettes can kill birds and finish birds. Been doing it for years, but the first flock that comes into a silhouette spread that flare, inevitably people are like, oh, the silhouettes, they're shining. There's something going, and immediately your confidence is rattled when, it may be that they flared because of that, or it may be because your concealment wasn't great, or it may be because something else. So, but you get distracted on that one thing. So if you're hunting an A-frame and you're flaring birds, you may be like, oh, we're out here in this field sticking up like this. That's why they flared, when, it may be a combination of things or something else that you can do to still make it work. Just like with silhouettes, like you can still effectively kill birds with silhouettes. No question about it. I think the A-frame blind, although harder to conceal in your traditional sense, I think there are some benefits to trying to conceal one particular thing, vice if you're trying to hide like 6 or 7 layout blinds, because, you could have 6 layout blinds that are brushed perfectly, and that 7th one is brushed like crap. And then you can see the guy's face sticking out of it. That's all it takes to flare. But maybe your A-frame blind, because you've got, 7 guys working on one particular blind, or 4 guys, or however many guys you got working to brush one particular blind, you're able to get it brushed in nice and, a lot better and be more effective with that. But, I think some of the times that we've hunted out of them, we'll hunt, if you've got a cornfield that's got some standing corn rows left in it, those are perfect to build your blinds into. That's very popular up at the Eastern Shore. In Maryland there, they leave strips of corn and you just build your blind right into that. Another one that I've hunted out of is, when you're in a agricultural field and you may get like a wooded finger that comes out into the field, and you want to hunt the tip of that particular finger, you can brush in your A-frame style blind there as well and be able to effectively, draw birds to your location.
And I think, not even just the commercial blinds, but even, the do-it-yourself blinds, because you have some on ponds, don't you, that you guys put in with some T-posts and some snow fence. And that, we kind of took that idea from you this year, and finally the one beaver swamp that we hunt religiously, we would just go and kind of, like the southern guys in the timber, just kind of hug a tree, and people are pie facing and you're out a little more than what you should be. So we put a blind, and you can probably fit 6 or 7 guys. It's kind of on a corner. So it's almost like a 90-degree blind, and then a little bit in the back, and we have a tree to our back as well. So it's good cover, but there wasn't much water in there this year, but just the difference it made in the birds committing was just a huge difference compared to, not having that. So that was a good adjustment on our part finally after 6 or 7 years of hunting there.
And I think there's probably a couple of different reasons for that, and I'm trying to save my benefits of an A-frame, why I like them and what I think is beneficial about them. But I think as far as when you can use an A-frame, it's gonna depend. And I don't know about fields, where you get in situations where you hunt these massive fields out in the prairies and it's just fields for as far as you can see. I don't know how effective they are in those locations. I don't know if birds are more acceptable to them when you've got more wooded fingers that stick out and fence rows and bales and things of that nature. I don't know enough about it in those conditions to say, but from my personal experience, I've never hunted a pond or a cornfield or anything like that if brushed appropriately, an A-frame blind wouldn't be just as effective as a layout blind.
Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely agree with that. And I think, stepping back to the whole comfort thing, I just thinking about all the guys that used to be, just diehard waterfowlers, and they don't want to do it anymore because mostly laying down and like, my back, I have so many back problems. I can't go out there and lay in the field. Like I think that has probably helped keep the older generation in the field. Just being able to sit or stand if they want to instead of having to keep getting up and down. I think that's a huge advantage for that age.
Yeah. I mean, since we're into benefits at this point, we'll go down this road. I think A-frame opportunities for not only older, but for younger are huge. I mean, huge. It gives kids space to kind of move around a little bit. Let them, get their cups of hot cocoa and, if they've got a book or a magazine or something with them, they can have a freedom to move around a little bit and still be concealed and not cause, having any problems, in that regard. For older guys, yeah, I mean, you can't do, you can't expect older guys to be popping up out of a layout blind, time after time. They're just not doing that stuff anymore. So being able to sit upright and all that kind of stuff is it's invaluable. And I mean, for me personally, laying in a field when it's wet and cold and all that kind of stuff, I mean, yeah, having birds finish right on top of you in a layout blind is an awesome experience. But if I got to shoot them at like 10 or 15 yards, drop it into the decoys and I can sit upright and have all the comforts that come with that. Yeah. I mean, I'm into it, man. I know, I've got layout blinds and they just don't get a lot of use anymore because, frankly, there aren't many times when I really forced to use them at that, if that makes sense.
I think here's another very large benefit that you probably don't think about, but it is a huge advantage. When you're laying out 5 wide in layout blinds, say that you come up from Virginia and you hunt with me and you're on one end, I'm on the other end. Like, how much do we get to talk in that situation?
Right.
Compared to when we go to the Eastern Shore and we're in a pit and literally like my abs hurt on the way home because we're laughing so much.
Yeah.
Like just the camaraderie, like just that time in the field with your friends, being able to talk, being able to, see all the expressions, whether they're moving or not, but just facial expressions rather than just yelling up over your blind door. Like that is a huge advantage that I think a lot of people don't think of. And that could be, a lot of friendship opportunities that could be contributing to this little blow up that we're seeing.
Yeah. And I mean, I think too, people, because again, let's see here. This is probably, let me think back. man, maybe like 2008 or 2009 time frame, maybe even a little bit earlier than that. I can remember layout blinds were all the rage. And the big thing was, how do they pack up? Like, do they pack up and fold up nice and flat like a book bag? Or do they kind of fold flat and then just the foot kind of buckles up? How do you transport that in and out of the field? That kind of stuff. And I mean, the ones that I have, they're tangle free old versions. It's like the first ones they had. They fold down flat and then the foot folds up and buckles. But I mean, it's still too big to wear. It's like a backpack. You kind of got to throw it over your shoulder with a carry strap sort of thing. And yeah, I mean, it's doable, but it's a pain in the neck to move that thing around, especially if it's brushed. I mean, forget about it. Some of these things that you see now with like the tangle-free panel blinds and stuff like that are so much more modular. And think about it, how much time have we spent collectively as a group, brushing in blinds the day before a hunt and helping each other just painstakingly get every little cranny on each individual blind and this, that, and the other. Think about how much more efficient it'd be if we had 4 or 5 guys working on one particular blind, and everyone's just kind of focused on that. I feel like, just the ease of transport and just all of that stuff, is a benefit.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And even, I'm thinking about today, and we ended up not using them because we were able to hunker down in the swamp, in the floating vegetation, and still, it was about thigh deep, so we were perfectly concealed. But we took the fast strike blinds in, which, one for the front, one for the back, easily conceal 3 guys that went. And what do they weigh like, their website says they weigh 8 pounds a piece. So 8 pounds, carry those in. There's carrying straps, just super easy to get in there. And I mean, we're, falling through this floating vegetation, walking in, still easy enough to carry and, get the job done. If you're that kind of hunter going into a spot where you don't have a built blind already.
Yeah. I mean, that would be my solution if I was hunting in a situation where I had to walk a ways and there was a lot of standing vegetation that I could utilize to brush on site. Because obviously, it's basically just like a board with bungee straps, and you stick the board in the ground and then stuff the brush in the bungees, which is cool. It gives you that flexibility to just kind of take it where you need to go and get in and out. The thing about the A-frame style blinds is they're trying to think of the right word. I mean, they're the happy medium for me. It's like, okay, are they the best for concealment? Maybe not. Maybe layout blinds are the best. Are they the best for my comfort? Absolutely. On a really cold day, can I run a heater in my layout blind? Probably not. Can I run a heater in an A-frame blind? Absolutely. It's that perfect trade-off. And if you can find one that works for your situation, so maybe, with the tangle-free panel blinds, you can pack those into your spot or pull them out of your trailer, set them up, and that works perfectly for you. Maybe you need the fast strike solution because you got a further walk and you're going to use cattails and reeds and things in your scenario. That's cool too. Maybe you got a pond or an impoundment that you hunt and you can set up your Avian X A-frame, brush it in and leave it there all year. That works too. There's a style of A-frame now. And again, this gets sort of to the popularity and the commercialization of the A-frame style that seems to really fit almost any kind of scenario that you may be in. And then that doesn't even begin to touch on the variety of the DIY options you can do out there with conduit, and I've seen them with PVC and all of the different, products that you can use to DIY something like that. It's just, I really wonder about the layout blinds, and I know we're going to have people comment on this after the fact, and I'd like to hear it, but If you feel like you just have to hunt out of layout blinds in today's day and age, I'd be curious to hear why you feel that is, and also if you tried to do a layout and what challenges you came across, because I just think that, there's a lot of products out there and a lot of evolutions taking place in this particular segment of the market to really, benefit us as far as allowing us to be more comfortable and enjoy the time that you spend out there, a little more.
This is, I started with a minimalist challenge at the beginning of the year, and I think this season might just kind of be a scenario testing year for me. And one might be, a A-frame in the middle of cut corn, which really, a layout blind brushed with corn stubble, it blends perfectly. Is it the most comfortable? Yeah, it's not bad. Like, I'm not old and I can handle it. It's fine. Would an A-frame be better? Probably. And I think I might just have to test a few things here and, put an A-frame up in the middle of some cut corn and see what happens.
Yeah, it'll work.
I think that's what we're here for, right?
Yeah, it'll work. There's no question it'll work. One of the drawbacks that I've noticed on A-frame style blinds, and you do sacrifice this to some extent over a layout, is that if you've got birds circling you or working you overhead, you get that dark area in the middle of the blind where everyone's hunkered down in there that can be alarming to birds. So, you kind of have to work that happy medium of getting some brush over top of your head, but at the same time being able to get out of there effectively and shoot. That can be a challenge. I think that's why they work so well in like the fence row or up against a riverbank or something where you've got maybe some more mature brush, vegetation, trees, something like that behind you that gives you sort of some top cover. Cause
here,
go ahead.
I was going to say with Tangle Free now, they do have the, swinging roof system.
Yeah.
So it comes up and bends over and you can open that up, and like the Fast Strike does have a 45-degree angle post now to where you can brush up over your back. But I don't think that one doesn't move. So birds coming in over you, you'd be like in a fixed blind. But yeah, the Tangle Free does have the swinging top to cover that hole.
Yeah, but even then, that's a trade-off, right? Compared to a layout blind. Because when you're in a layout blind, you can brush it pretty well to where you can move and get away with quite a bit, looking around and seeing how birds are responding out behind you when you hit them on the corners and that kind of thing. If you're in a situation where you've got not fixed hard, but like a roof over your head where you can't see well behind you and to the side of you, yeah, that's a trade-off. That's a drawback in my opinion. Is it one worth having? Depending on the situation, maybe. If you're hunting the X and you know where the birds are coming from and you got the wind that's going to work right and you can set your decoy spread to kind of help manipulate them, it's probably not going to be an issue at all. If you're trying to run traffic and maybe you got birds kind of bouncing around and you need to be responsive and create, trying to read the birds and flag and do all of these things to try to really pull birds to your location, those may be days where that isn't the best situation, or best option to hunt with. But, I think it's taking that experiment and kind of figuring out, knowing your situation, knowing what you're getting into that day to sort of figure out what's going to work best.
Man, there's so many things going through my head right now of what I want to try in different fields and situations. But let's go. Do you want to do a little, a little compare and contrast between, say, the Fast Strike and the Tangle Free more than what we've done?
Yeah. And I think,
you got some more positive, negative?
Well, not so much. I would argue too that, Well, I guess I should say this. Let's one more kind of positive, negative thing to sort of just kind of think through out loud here. And I don't know whether this is going to be a positive or a negative, but as everybody listening to this show knows, waterfowl hunting is an expensive endeavor, and layout blinds, A-frame style blinds, none of them are cheap. And, what would you say is the going rate for your average layout frame style blind? I mean, $200, something like that, roughly.
Yeah.
So
give or take 25.
Yeah. I mean, you could spend $175 on an Avery sleeping bag style, whatever, or, you can spend $400 on a super low pro, whatever. I'm just going to think, most of our listeners or whatever are probably not buying $500 layout blinds. I'm sure some are, but again, this for comparison's sake, let's just say you're in the $200 range and you've got a group of 5 in your hunting party, right? So for each person to buy their own layout blind, you're talking like $1,000 or whatever, split between all of you. The first thing that is going to come to people's mind when they see the cost of a tangle-free panel blind is going to be like, holy crap, that's super expensive, right?
Right.
That was mine. That was my reaction. Because, you look at what you get, and I mean, I should say before I, whatever, I think it's a phenomenal product. I mean, I truly do. But when you first look at it, you get that like that's an expensive panel, and kind of take that approach. But when you compare it to, okay, group of 5 guys, whether they be you're 5 in a hunting party and everyone's buying their own, or, you and your buddy, or you got like, your son or your buddy's son, or, whatever it is, but you want to conceal 5 or 6 guys, right? At $200 a pop, you're getting pretty expensive for your traditional layout style blinds. When you talk about A-frame blinds, to be able to conceal the same amount of people, and I think you've looked at this a little more than me, what kind of pricing are we looking at for comparable coverage on the A-frame style with what's commercially available now?
The tangle free, you're looking at one set of panels, you're going to be at $300. So if you go front and back, it's going to be $600. And that being said,
that'll conceal how many people?
That'll be 4.
4
So
people.
600 compared to 800. Conceals up to 4. And then obviously they can, click together. But if you're hunting fence rows or edge of fields, like we were talking, you're going to buy one. So that's $300 compared to $1,000. You lose versatility of where you can go, but you're saving $700.
Okay. Well, let's just say for giggles here that you're concealing 4 people. Let's make it easy. Okay. 4 people, each in their own layout blinds, 2, 4, 6, $800. That's probably on the low end, right? I mean, $200 is about the ground level that you're going to get in for a frame style layout versus $600 for a panel set of, the tangle free style that, would give you the front back coverage, 4 people, a little more comfortable, that kind of thing. So, the idea here is the A-frame style can actually be a more affordable economic choice. If you go down to like the Fast Strike, obviously it's not a frame style. That's just more of a foundation kind of deal. You're talking significantly less there. I think the Avian X A-frame would be about the same cost as like a tangle-free front and back panel setup would be. But if you devise like the DIY version where you're using, 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch conduit with like some metal fencing, not the chicken wire, but the little bit bigger gridded stuff, clamped on or zip tied on, brushed in, where you're making like a de facto. I mean, you can save a substantial amount of money and be able to, conceal 4 to 5 people pretty easily.
Yeah, I think you'd be probably under $200 with that. For sure.
But being that there's so many ways to DIY it, we'll table that for now. I just sort of wanted to make that point that there is the gamut there, but we'll stick to the commercially available options for our compare and contrast just because it's, a million different ways to do it DIY style.
Right. So the Tangle Free, you're looking at $600, which Tangle Free runs some sales that if you want any of their products, which they're all high quality, I know they just ran their second 40% off of this year. So you can definitely get some sales. That being said, I'm looking at Dunn Sporting Goods right now. They sell everything under the sun. The Fast Strike blinds are $69.99 right now. So, you can conceal 4 guys front and back for $140 if you have the vegetation, which shouldn't be hard to get.
So with the Fast Strike style though, now do they come in, if I remember, they do like different lengths, right? Like you can do a 3-arm or a 2-arm or something like that.
Yeah, for that price, it's going to come with, it's a 2-arm, so it's 4 foot and then a swivel and then another 4 foot, and it folds on itself for carrying and then opens up. So you're at 8 feet. You can fit 4 guys in there. It might be a little tight, but, $70 comes with dowel rods that go into the ground, and you put it on that and load it up.
Gotcha. So, do you
and
know
8 pounds a piece? So if you're moving, if you're walking in far or have a difficult walk, it's a pretty decent option.
Now I know for the Tangle Free panel, they fold down into like 3 or 4 sections, so they pack down pretty condensed, right? So you could carry them as well. I don't know if you have it, what stats you have in front of you, but do you know like what a weight is of one set of panels?
Yeah, for Tangle Free, you're looking at 19 pounds, including the support poles and stakes.
And that's one front. Like
that's a front or a back. So you're looking at, almost 40 pounds if you're going both sides.
Well, okay, but think about this. A lot of people could probably relate to this. If you own a Summit climbing tree stand, you put 20 pounds on your back and walk, half a mile or whatever into the woods, without much effort, So again, 20 pounds between, if you got 2 guys, each take a panel, it's not that bad. Reality of it is, I don't think most guys are going to be packing panel blinds too far. You're using a trailer or a truck, you know what I mean? Like using a sled of some type. I mean, you're probably not carrying them too far. Most of the DIY options kind of thing, you'd have to set them up and leave them there or set up ahead of time probably. Cause they're not going to have, that's going to be the major drawback if you do something like that, is they're a little harder to move. Even like what we did, we, had those green snow stakes, and then we put chicken wire and zip tied, long brush to it. And we would just do like 10 or 14 foot sections of chicken wire, roll it up. I mean, after you brush it and roll it up, I mean, they're so heavy to carry. It's a nightmare. So we would end up just leaving them at our spots a lot of times. So, there's a lot of benefit to the way that the panels fold up and pack. I think you probably could carry them with you if you really had to, if it was a wet field or something where the, landowner wouldn't let you drive through there. Being that they pack up and they've got carry straps and stuff. I mean, I'm not familiar with how the Fast Strike pack up and carry, but, which one do you think would be easier? I mean, put weight aside for a second, just like, the carrying mechanism. Do they strap up like backpacks, or are they shoulder straps? Kind of how do they work?
The Fast Strikes has, it's a strap that goes around the front and the back, which one thing I don't like about it is that it can slide. And if you don't tighten it down strong enough, it'll slide up and down and make it uneven. So it could actually slide out of those straps, which I don't like. I'm not exactly sure how the tangle free. I think there's handles on it to be able to carry it, and it says the size folded is let's see here, pretty much 33 inches by 4.5 inches by 50.5 height. So, I mean, that's not 3 feet by 4 feet, all folded up with handles. So, I mean, that's a pretty, and I really, if you're taking a group of 4 guys, there has to be someone that could put a plate on their back and walk to wherever you're going. I mean, 40 pounds isn't much.
Yeah. It looks like they fold together flat, buckle, and then have sort of like a small briefcase handle. It doesn't appear that
that's what I was thinking.
It doesn't appear that they have like a big shoulder strap or backpack straps. So I mean, they fold up pretty flat and pretty small, but without being able to throw it on your back, you'd probably have to kind of sling it over your shoulder and sort of do the, hold your hand kind of up over your shoulder, throw it on your back kind of carry, which, I mean, 40 pounds, you can do that pretty easily, I would think. So,
yep. I think they're both very mobile.
Yeah.
There's one, the Fast Strike's just smaller and has a shoulder strap, but it's really, I think they're both very, very easy to move around.
Yeah, and I mean, I know you're partial to the tangle free because they're OptiFade, which is nice. So, if that's your thing,
they have Max 5 too.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Is that new?
Surprisingly, no. The Max 5 and Marsh pattern, the OptiFade Marsh, are pretty much always sold out, and the Timber seems to be in stock quite often. So, which is kind of crazy to me. You think that there would be a lot more Marsh or Max 5 if you're using that style blind compared to Timber, but the Max 5 is pretty dark too.
Yeah, that's another thing, and this is kind of a sidetrack, but the whole camouflage game has really changed so much in the last couple of years. I was reading in I don't know if it was a DU magazine or what it was, but there was a Realtree advertisement in the magazine, and it said, showed somebody in camo hunting or whatever, and it said, you can wear camo or you can wear Realtree. And I was like, I don't really know what they're trying to say there. It was weird. It just didn't really resonate with me that well, but it got me thinking about camouflage, oddly enough, because I was like, well, if I'm not wearing Realtree, then what am I wearing? And I'm like, man, there's OptiFade, there's the Mossy Oak stuff, but it seems like everybody nowadays has their own camo pattern. It's like for the longest time, everybody licensed off of Realtree and Mossy Oak. And now it's like people realize, well, that sucks. I don't want to give like a percentage of my profit on everything I make because I have to, have it dipped in Max 5 or whatever first. So you're seeing all these varieties of camos now, which is kind of neat. I think that's probably even more profound on the big game side because you've got Under Armour making their own stuff. You got, this camo, Cryptic and all these other people and Kuiu and whatever. I mean, it's just wild, there's so many.
First Light.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So everyone's got their own pattern, but they've all got these scientific formulas that prove that they're all the best. Right. So it's funny to me. And it's funny to me, particularly for waterfowl, because I actually would prefer to hunt in solids most of the time because I'm in a blind and whatever. So it's easier for me to when I got to hit the post office after a hunt to not walk in like full OptiFade. If I could wear some solids, that's cool. But anyway, again, I digress, but a lot of people.
It's like whenever you watch a TV show and you have a Chevy commercial, a Ford commercial, Dodge commercial, and they all have like the number one ranked truck of the year. And it's like, well, how do you all have
right
the number one ranked truck? I don't.
Well, the thing is, again, I'm going to date myself back to like the 2007 to 2009 timeframe when I was researching a lot more on layout blinds. At that time, you could buy them in pretty much Realtree and I guess some mossy oak shadow grass, I think was what their kind of waterfowl pattern was. And then you could buy most of them in just like brown, like khaki, and they'd be a little bit less expensive because they're not paying for the camo license. And a lot of guys would be like, I'm buying the khaki anyway, because the first thing I'm going to do is mud the crap out of that blind to take the shine off it. So I don't care what camo it is anyway. And then I'm going to cover it all with like natural vegetation. So I literally don't care what the camo is under that. And I'm kind of like, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. If that's what you're going to do, why pay extra for camo regardless of what color it is? So it's one of those things where I would be like, what could Tangle Free offer the panel blinds at if they sold them in just the khaki or the brown? Like, what kind of price reduction would they, if any, would they do for that?
Mm-hmm. That's a good thought. Good question.
So
I'd probably buy one in mud.
Yeah.
I'd probably buy a lot of stuff in mud.
Yeah, I would too.
I'll tell you one thing that I am going to pick up. I know, and this isn't blinds, but I think I might end up getting some Decoy bags in camo, because there's a lot of places that we don't use blinds that I think I could really benefit from that. You throw them out and then you either sit on them or, whatever, you try and hide them, but a little bit of camo I think would actually help, especially if ducks are getting shot at close to you and they're checking everything out. Anyway, a side note.
So now that we're fully diverging onto camo, I've actually got another an interesting comment about this. So I can't remember why, but I was watching YouTube videos of a guy who would dress in a variety of military camo, and then he would video himself. Like the screen would come on and he's sitting somewhere in the frame holding still, and you got to try to pick him out. And then he starts moving and you see him. And it basically shows like the effectiveness of the pattern. And he does it at different times of the year and things like that. And he's going through, the old school, like Vietnam era greens, and then the Desert Storm and the multicam and all of these different things. And what I found for me to be the most effective and hard to find him was just the straight brown, like no pattern, just brown.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't know why. I think, part of it was you don't realize how much brown is in the natural environment until you see something solid brown in there and you can't freaking see it.
Right.
It shocks you how much you blend when you're brown. And I started thinking.
And he was doing this in a lot of different environments?
Yeah, like river bottoms, hillsides, like just different things. And I got to thinking about it. And I'm like, think about, the majority of game animals and stuff that we pursue, deer, things like that. They're all, or most of them are brown to variations of brown, right? In the woods, at least. Mm-hmm. Again, ducks are a little bit different, but look at most hens, most female ducks, a lot of species are brown, solid brown, because they are going to be nesting on the ground, and that gives them the best concealment and opportunity to survive.
Yep.
Deer the same way. I mean, deer can lay in a pocket in a cornfield, and if they don't move, you don't see them. It's like they don't have any optifade patterns or Realtree. You know what I'm saying? So it's just really, I truly believe that camo, for the most part, is for the hunter's eye. I mean, it's what the one you like is going to make you buy the clothing or whatever, most likely. But if, evolution, we're trying to hide from a bird or a deer. Their life depends on hiding from us. So, if the best way to survive would be to evolve to a OptiFade coat on your, style camouflage pattern, that would happen. I think it's over time you're seeing that brown is the most effective baseline to maintain cover. So I do think taking the time to mud your blinds, get the shine off your new clothes, all that kind of stuff. All of that is as important as the style of blind you're in and how, much brush you put on it. All of those things do matter. So I guess my really super roundabout point here is it's the totality of the hide. It's not just one element of that hide that's going to be the most important. It's that whole you're only as good as your weakest link sort of mentality, I guess.
Man, now I just want to order a bunch of brown clothes.
I mean, again, I think everything has its place, but
right.
Back in, again, in every conditions all conditions are different, but we don't hunt in the heat of the summer when the woods are at their greenest. We hunt in the times when things are dead for the most part or dying. Next time you're in the woods or, you're out hunting, just take a look around and it's one of those things where it's like you don't really notice it until you're looking for it. But just take note of how much brown or shades or variations of brown you find in the woods. It's like, it's an enormous amount. And that's why I do think that the OptiFade pattern blends the best in that environment because it's based more in those lighter brown, warm tones where the darker tones tend to contrast more with nature's brown to kind of make you stand out a little bit. That HD pattern that they print on clothing, that's not what it looks like in the real world, right?
No.
So, and I think it's funny.
So what's our,
huh?
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think it's funny, we know that like Decoy shine will flare birds, right? Whether they're wet or whether they've got ice or frost or whatever sun, right? The blind's the same thing, right? Anything that you're putting into the field has the vulnerability of shine. So when you place your blind, when you brush your blind, when you do all of those things, you need to have that same sort of mentality that you do when you're setting out your decoy spread and being cautious of those same pitfalls.
I like it. So I think I'm about tapped out on A-frame blinds for the night, I think, but I think this was a good conversation and definitely might get people thinking that, oh, my dad hasn't hunted because he doesn't want to sit in a layout. Well, there are other options out there, and I think this might get some older generation back in the field if our listeners want to do that.
Yep, and the same could be said for kids. You want to have a chance, get a kid out, get the heater fired up, bring the camp stove with you. All of those things can be done inside those A-frame styles. So, again, I think the purpose of this conversation is to kind of reach out to anybody out there that thinks that layouts are the only option. And maybe for your situation, maybe they are the only option. I don't know. But for a lot of guys, I think the A-frame is viable. And, with the development coming on the market of new products, it's never been more viable probably than it is today. So
let's talk about a couple other things here.
Okay.
One that I've been seeing everywhere, all the guides that, obviously Facebook, I'm just reading and seeing where people are killing all these birds and saying that they've never seen this many birds this early, or it's been a long time. So what about this migration and even the reports like these birds are moving already?
Yeah, I've heard
majorly
that there, people are saying they're a month ahead. I don't know what that means. Really, I'm not seeing it here. Again, I'm not hunting yet, so it's a little bit different. But that one video that popped up here the other day showing the aerial count from the Mississippi or whatever.
Yeah, the bluebills.
Yeah, I mean they're just piles of ducks. I mean, awesome stuff.
Yeah, so that's awesome. I think I saw some of that this morning when we were hunting. Just the amount of green-winged teal, which I didn't realize that. I mean, I guess that they are. Some people say this is their average run, but man, when you're in 27-degree weather in Pennsylvania, one of the last things you're surprised by is, having a teal come into your spread and knocking them down. So killed a couple of them today, and just a lot of big groups of birds flying. So you know what that means for me.
You're going to start deer hunting?
Well, Saturday I'm going to deer hunt. It's the last day of archery. But usually our divers don't show up till we're out of season. So if it's a month ahead, I might have, 3 good weeks to get on some cans and bluebills up here, which we usually don't get.
Right. Yeah. I mean, hopefully, again, I feel the migration's so finicky, man. I think there's been some cold weather up north that's been locking up some water, and that's pushing birds down. But again, you could get a warming trend and just put the brakes right on that. I mean, sometimes it's just so weird. And we've had it in times where we've gotten, historically for us, right around Thanksgiving, we get a push of we get a push of some divers, but we get a good push of gadwall and ringneck and stuff like that. And sometimes they'll be here for a weekend. They'll come in and then they're gone, and they just keep on going. And then we don't see birds again till late, hard freezes kind of stuff. So it's just so weird. I wish it would just I wish the faucet would just turn on and just kind of stay flowing, not turn it on full blast, turn it off full blast, turn it off. I'd like to keep because what ultimately what ends up happening is we'll get these pushes of birds, and we'll have a couple hundred bluebills and variety of other puddle ducks and stuff in the general area where we're hunting, and then those birds will hang there for a month, and we won't get any new birds, and those birds get hip to the game pretty quick after you pick off a few of their friends, so it makes it really, really tough, in high pressure areas where a lot of guys are out hunting. So I hope you get a chance to shoot some divers, because I've seen the pictures after the season's closed, and you guys get them thick. So I am encouraged though by the number of ducks you said you saw this morning. I'm not shocked to see green wing too much. We'll see them here even when it's cold late in season. I think most of your blue wings are probably pushed out, and I think I don't know what's your wood duck situation like. Did you see many of them this morning?
We did, and actually got surprised by a few flying from our backs. It was one of the first pair that came in.
Yeah,
and came in, landed up of our spread a little bit, and that takes me to my next point, which is very embarrassing, but I'll throw it out there anyway. Got the lifetime rigs in, and I have some long lines and some jerk rigs. So as I was setting up my early season jerk rigs, I have all my wood ducks and some mallards set up, and I just opened up my long line box. So I was sitting right there. Well, I take the long line handle and cord and the jerk rig weight, and then all my decoys. So I go out the first time, the opening day, I throw it out there, and the way that I had it coming into the blind, it was on a little bit of vegetation. So when I pulled, it would pull, and then the vegetation would push that back, would push my string back. So my jerk rig was working, but not because of the way it should. There was no bungee on it. So I took it out again today. I just, we put it back in a bag, and then took it out today. I throw it out and I start pulling it, and just the whole thing's coming in. It's just basically a drag. There's no bungee cord on it. It's just my long line on an anchor. So I'm trying to make some movement, but I would pull it in, and then, when no birds were flying, I would go back out and throw the whole thing back out. And that's how I was getting motion in our spread. And I was like, why is there no bungee on here? And, I made a post in our Facebook group and how I was a donk today. And I was like, and, the guys from Lifetime got a hold of me and they're like, we really don't see that happen. Maybe it snapped or something. So let us know. And I get back on my lunch break, and my jerk rigs are hanging up in my garage, not even used yet. So I felt pretty dumb about that.
Yeah. I mean, what we have here is a classic case of diver decoy amateur hour, because not being well versed in the ways of diver duck hunting, to the untrained eye, it would appear that they're the same. But as you learned the hard way, they're quite different. Man. So, as a novice and a guy who's just starting to get the tingle for diver hunting, these things will happen, but you just kind of have to, overcome and you'll be all right. But, I can't say that I've made the same mistake or anything similar to that, but I'm confident that if you, continue to work at it, that your ability to separate the gear that you need for diver hunting and the gear you need for, your puddle duck situations, it'll come with time and oh my gosh. And just continue practice.
I think we get the point here. But anyway,
I'm trying to be supportive, man. I'm trying to be supportive.
Shout out to the Lifetime guys, because they said, if something did happen, let us know. And they actually had a shipping label ready to send me a new one. And I let them know what happened. So they said, yeah, if you're okay with that, we're just going to cancel the order. And I said, yeah, please don't ship that out. So, they were ready to stand behind their product. And even though I was the dunce on that one. And that goes to another point. Our I'm just going to keep going here. Our listeners group is awesome. So if you are on Facebook, look it up. There's so many new guys in there that just, hey, I'm from here. I moved from this area and now I'm here. Can anyone, point me in the right direction? And there's someone within, an hour of anyone in that group. It seems like, a lot of guys are getting together and hunting together, and, people stepped right up and said, message me, private message me, and I'll give you a shout out, or, they're members of the DU in that area, and say, get a hold of us and, we'll help you out. And just really, a great group, and it's just cool to see everyone helping each other out. So shout out to all you guys.
Yeah. I think, one of the main reasons that we started this show back when we did was because at that time there was no sport in the outdoors, at least in my opinion, that had such a steep entry as waterfowl. And what I mean by that is, if you didn't have a mentor or someone in your life that was willing to show you the ropes, it was incredibly hard to get into it. It's not, there's just so much that goes into it to be effective and have success. It's just such a difficult thing. So we wanted to kind of ease that entry in and be a resource to, discuss waterfowl hunting, tactics, tips, answer questions, whatever we could be to sort of help people get into it. And I mean, we see people on a daily basis joining the listeners group. Hey, my first year, my second year, my third year, I'm learning. Here's questions that I have. Here's struggles that I'm dealing with. And you got guys from all over the country chiming in and saying, oh yeah, I've had that, or try this. Or, like you said, hey, I'm a guy, I've been hunting for a couple years, just relocated. All the spots that I knew before, are a couple hours away. I'm trying to get in, bang, a guy messages him. He's in the DU chapter and lives in the general area where that guy lives. And said, hey, why don't you come out to the DU, meeting and meet the guys or whatever. Putting hunters together to to help each other out is awesome. Such a cool thing. Our listeners group has grown by like, hundreds of people. Lately it's growing at a crazy rate, which is awesome. But I will be the first one to tell you this. And, I'm not trying to be a jerk or negative or anything, but if you're an idiot, don't join. Because it's not a group where we don't let you bash people. We don't let people, whatever. Like, if you got a question, you ask it. If someone is an idiot in their response, we ban them. I mean, it's just, it's zero tolerance for idiots. And pretty much everybody that's in there has been resoundingly supportive of that stance. So, I think a lot of people really enjoy what we have going on there. I personally enjoy what we've got going on there. So yeah, I'd invite everybody who wants to talk hunting and is just, it's not about egos. It's not about whatever. It's just about hunting and just having fun and talking with people, talking with like-minded people. So definitely check it out. And the cool thing,
hunting and minivans and
so much minivan talk. I mean, it's funny. You just learn a lot about, the personalities and stuff. But, another thing I'll say about the group too is, we've got a lot of guys that have been on the show, are members in there now. So, I'll use an example, Barton Ramsey, Southern Oak Kennels, Gun Dog Academy. He's in there. Guys ask questions about dog training and bam, Barton is giving you answers to your questions. I mean, there's not a lot of areas where you can go and ask questions and get direction from guys with that amount of knowledge. And we've got guys that cover, several different areas, of the, waterfowling world, to answer those kinds of questions. So, really, really awesome opportunity, for anybody that wants to get involved. All you got to do is get in there, request permission. As long as you don't have like naked chicks in your profile or some obvious spam account, we're going to approve you.
There's so many people from Indonesia and just nothing to do with hunting that apply. Probably like 3 or 4 a day that just get banned.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, I'm not saying if you're a waterfowl hunter or an outdoorsman in general that you have to have like kill photos and stuff like that all over your profile. But like, if you don't have anything of any of that kind of stuff on there or pictures of you outdoors, like at all, it makes it really hard to approve you, so like have one or something in there, just so we know that like, okay, you are a hunter at least, and you're not going to come in there and like, spew a bunch of anti-hunting crap, whatever. But yeah, our threshold's not really high. It's not real high. It just,
There have been a few that applied and I denied them. And then a day or two later, I get another request and I'm like, that can't be like spam. You'd think that it would hit it once and go. So I don't know. Then the people start asking questions and I'm like, oh, all right.
Yeah. What I would say about that is, we don't do it. We try to screen to the extent that we keep people that aren't there for the right reasons out. And that means anti-hunters, spam accounts, the normal crap that you get on there. If you request access to the group and you haven't been approved in like 2 or 3 days at the most, send either Dan or myself a direct message so that we know you're like a legit dude or legit chick and want to talk about hunting, and we'll approve you. Maybe for whatever reason, you don't want to promote the fact that you hunt or whatever. All good. But if you don't have a profile picture, I guarantee you I'm not approving you unless you message me and tell me for some reason that there's a reason why you don't have that. All good. But again, if you don't have it, we don't know. So we're not going to approve it. But, we try really hard to make the group a functional, usable resource. I think so far we've succeeded in that, and we're going to continue to try to build it and, go by those same kind of principles.
Keep it going.
Yeah. Along with that, you can, like I said, check us out on, Instagram. We check Twitter, but not a ton. So, I mean, it's there. But, we're hoping to, now that, I mean, I'm not even in season yet. So, like, I haven't even really been able to get stories or pictures or anything yet going. So, hopefully you'll start seeing some, more stuff. I love Instagram. It's the easiest place to post material. I don't have to worry about like politics and all sorts of crap. So check me out, Josh_Palm on Instagram.
Just trying that catch up.
Hey man, I mean, I'm down like 5,000 followers. So to you. So, but anyway, HP account, we might try to do some live stuff on there and, we'll see. We're working on some things, but, as we all know, time is a premium for us. So we'll do the best we can. What else, Dan?
I don't know, man. I'm just ready to get my proper rigging equipment ready and get back in the swamp because
are you hunting tomorrow?
I know that I can. No, I work out of town tomorrow, but I'm pretty sure Friday we'll be in the chips. We have a very large cold front coming and snow, and I think these birds, if they stay around the next couple of days, it might be pretty dangerous on their part. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. And then last day, archery Saturday. So I'll be in a tree stand until that is over, one way or another. And then it's birds from here on out and getting excited.
Yep.
Getting real excited.
Same here. Season comes in November 15th. For me, we get 2 weeks and then it's out again till like mid-December. And then once that comes back in, it's in through the end of January for ducks and through the middle of February for geese. So,
speaking today, what I wore today, 27 degrees this morning on the way to the swamp. Everything was super frosty and foggy. So it was like just misty, cold. I wore a duck oven today, and I had a merino top, a traverse top, which is like it's not quite a heavyweight material from Sitka, but probably a middleweight type deal.
I love the traverse top. I love that piece.
Oh, yeah. It's wonderful. And that duck oven, and man, was it beautiful. It was just like a sleeping blanket or sleeping bag. Just, I was comfortable all day. Not one issue.
They've redone the duck oven a little bit, right? Is it?
Yeah.
Is it
a little more durable?
A little more durable, because I know it used to be not really considered an outer layer piece durability wise.
Right. I tell you what I walked through today, Jaggers and just this crappy brush. And I looked at it afterwards, and I mean, I got caught on Jaggers to where I couldn't walk, and I heard some like just straight peeling down the jacket, and I was very surprised that there was no rips in it, just because of what I heard before, and definitely put it through the paces a little bit today. So it was a good feeling to get back to the truck and see it was in one piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. Good stuff. Well, we've been at it for like an hour and 10 minutes or so, maybe 15 minutes. So I think it's probably about time we put a bow on this episode and wrap it up. Anything else you want to discuss here or plug before we hang it up?
I don't know, man. I think I'm pretty good. Just, getting back in the swing of it. Got a few hunts under my belt. Got a couple teal aging right now, and I'm probably just gonna jalapeno popper it. Mm-hmm. They're so small. They're so small.
Yeah. Maybe
just a bacon wrap. Maybe not even get jalapenos out, but try it out that way, and no, I don't know. I'm looking forward to this push. Hopefully this cold. I know we joke about cold fronts and whatnot, but I really think there's going to be some movement. We're supposed to get lake effect like 5 to 6 inches this weekend, or Friday. So it could just be a bang out hunt. Pumped.
pumped for you. I'm hoping you can get on them, and then when you start complaining about your season being out and the birds being there, maybe this will be the year that you actually get down to hunt with me in here in Virginia one time.
Mm-hmm.
It's only been...
That's another one with the...
I've only lived here since 2006, and you've never hunted with me here, so, it's all good, though.
Well, that's... I mean, I consider the Eastern Shore hunting with you down there. Kind of.
Yeah.
But I've been out of that game for a couple years, too.
That's true. All right.
But I am going to Maine in January.
That's cool. You hunt with the dudes in Maine. You don't hunt with me at all, but that's cool. Enjoy that, guys, up in Maine. Real cool. Yeah.
That's going to be fun.
I can't wait to get assaulted in the listeners group over this.
Yep.
It's all good, guys.
Hopefully you get attacked for a little bit. A couple memes with your face on it.
See, you haven't figured it out yet. When you tried to assault me over the Halloween stuff, I just didn't respond. And it just goes away. You bicker back and forth with everybody, and
oh my god,
40 episodes later, we're still talking about minivans.
Oh, there's still a minivan out in my driveway, so it's kind of
indeed.
I mean, you're not Shaggy anymore, so
nope. I was a stormtrooper this year, bro.
I saw it. That was pretty nasty looking.
Yeah.
Hey, what's your current beard situation right now?
Funny that you mentioned this. It's intense, incredibly intense. I haven't shaved, and probably since September, early September. At least my chin and lower area. But my lovely wife made a photo appointment for us this weekend, and she's been on the record multiple times in the last day or two that she would appreciate a trim. So
what are you gonna do?
Well, I need to trim it a little bit anyway, because it's an issue at this point to just
another like birds living in it again.
Oh yeah, it's like a rat's nest on my chin. But I don't want to take it all the way off, and I don't want to take it down as short as I would in like the summertime. So, just have to find the happy medium somewhere. But yeah, it's intense. A little more grays than I had in the past, but just wisdom. It's all good.
Yeah. Get out of here.
All right, let's do it. All right, appreciate you guys joining us for episode 66 of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast. Make sure you check out all our past episodes on iTunes. You can check us out at hpoutdoors.com and across all the social media platforms. Hopefully you enjoyed our discussion about A-frame blinds and maybe got you thinking a little bit about your ability to use those this upcoming season. The season's rolling around for both Dan and myself, so hang with us and keep your eye out for fresh, new content coming from HP Outdoors. So for Dan, I'm Josh. Take care.